president of Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch is a nonprofit educational foundation that seeks transparency, accountability, and integrity in government politics and the law. Judicial Watch, as part of its educational mission, often files Freedom of Information Act requests, and if the law is not complied with in that regard, we file lawsuits to enforce those requests about government activities and areas of interest to the American people. Last week, on May 3rd, Judicial Watch filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Department of Defense, asking access to all photographs and or video recordings of Osama bin Laden taken during and or after the U.S. military operation in Pakistan on or about May 1st, 2011. Yesterday, we received a letter dated May 9th from the Department of Defense telling us that they are unable to comply or to make a release determination on our request within a 20-day statutory time period. In other words, the Defense Department has no plans to comply with basic requirements of the Freedom of Information Act. And as a result, Judicial Watch filed a lawsuit this morning in the U.S. District Court here for the District of Columbia to enforce our FOIA request. The complaint was filed against the Department of Defense, and it's been assigned to the Honorable James E. Boasberg, who is a recent appointee to the bench, at least at the federal district court level. Judicial Watch believes the release of these documents are in the public interest. We believe that the President's statements suggesting that these documents not be released because he doesn't want America to be seen as spiking the football or gloating are not lawful reasons for withholding government information of this nature. This is basic information about one of the most important military operations in a generation, and we don't believe the administration has a lawful basis to withhold this request, withhold this information, and strikingly, the letter yesterday did not state a lawful reason for withholding the information. So this administration doesn't want to bother to comply with FOIA. The President thinks he can make law off the cuff, and that's not how things work. And as a result, he's going to have to go through, the administration is going to have to go through the legal process and justify by putting pen to paper and to a federal court as to why they think this basic information should be withheld from the American people. So that being said, I will take any questions if there are. The government has approximately 30 days to respond to our lawsuit, and just so you know, we filed an identical request with the Central Intelligence Agency for these documents on May 4th. We have not yet received a response from the CIA, even though I understand they do have documents based on public reports that are responsive to this request. So unfortunately, the Obama administration has this attitude, despite the President's promise of being the most transparent administration in history. I guess that means unless they don't want to be transparent, and unless it means they don't want to comply with the law. And the gap between the President's rhetoric and his actions, especially in this historic instance, is astonishing. And Judicial Watch has many, many Freedom of Information Act requests pending with the administration, many, many lawsuits, but this arguably is as important as any other lawsuit we filed. And Judicial Watch has been around for 17 years. We pursued transparency and accountability against the Clinton administration. We pursued transparency and accountability against the Bush administration, taking the Bush administration all the way up to the Supreme Court to gain access to secret Energy Task Force meetings and documents. And with the Obama administration, we've seen an administration that is the least transparent, certainly in recent memory, and certainly less transparent than the Bush administration. In the end, I think these documents will be released. I think the photographs of bin Laden depicting bin Laden after he's been killed will be released, but it's a shame that we have to go through this rigmarole to get access to this basic information and to enforce compliance with one of the simplest federal laws, the Freedom of Information Act, a law that the administration doesn't seem too bothered to try to follow in this instance. So that being said, any other opportunities for questions? Yes?
Delight Matson from IHA News Agency. Do you think that the release of the photos or any footage would have a negative effect and could lead to the loss of American lives? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I do not think so. And if the administration truly thinks so, they need to make the arguments in court. And there are ways to make those arguments in court, and they haven't done it yet. And they could have done it administratively in response to our request, but their response yesterday was, we're not prepared to make a determination about the release, and we're not going to tell you when we're going to make that determination. So I think it's interesting to learn that President Obama has made these statements off the cuff of 60 Minutes, but we haven't had the agencies come forward and support that. And I would argue that the release of this basic information about bin Laden is being overblown by the administration in terms of its impact on our foreign policy. And I would take the opposite stance, in fact, that it would be a morale booster to our troops to have further evidence depicting documentary evidence of this astonishing victory on behalf of America that our troops and our intelligence officials and the President gained for us. So I think this is important information, and I don't think it's as big a deal to release it as the administration suggests. And it's quite simple, and it should be released. And members of Congress, some of whom viewed the information yesterday, the photos yesterday and the day before at CIA headquarters, didn't think it'd be a big deal to release the photos. And there's nothing we understand, particularly gruesome in light of what folks are used to seeing, that would prohibit their release. And not only this, but we're not only asking for the photos, we're asking for video as well. We still don't have video, for instance, of the funeral on the controversial funeral on it was the USS Vincent, I believe. But so this request goes beyond the actual photographs, but video of the raid and video subsequent to the raid of his burial would be responsive as well. Again, I don't understand why this material is being considered a state secret to the extent the administration is considering it. I think the inflammatory act, if indeed there was one, was killing bin Laden. But we shouldn't have to apologize for that. And we cannot throw out our laws because enforcing them might inflame the enemy. I'd like to know what other laws the administration thinks should not be followed because enforcing them would inflame the enemy. If they don't want to follow FOIA law, we will pursue it in court. And if they want to change the law, they're going to have to get Congress to do it. They can't do it unilaterally.
Do you think that there could be evidence that it wasn't bin Laden or any of these conspiracies?
No, I have no reason to believe that bin Laden was not killed on May 1st by the SEAL teams. But it's not a question of that. This is the question of just providing information as required by the rule of law. And Judicial Watch in the Bush administration, in order to tamp down conspiracy theories related to 9/11, we fought for in court the release of a videotape that the Pentagon had been withholding for years after 9/11, which showed the American Airlines flight crashing into the Pentagon. And the 9/11 lunatics, the 9/11 lunatic conspiracy theorists were out there suggesting that the tape was being withheld because it showed a missile attack in the Pentagon. And we thought it was in the public interest that the document be released to kind of tamp down those